yeah, I just can't believe it. Aren't they beautiful? Can we
Yeah.
What a pleasure to be here and meet everyone, and so inspiring. To see some of your artwork. Oh my gosh, I'd love to see all of it. You guys are all very, very talented. I was talking to Linda. She's amazing with her artwork, and Donna, of course, and everybody. And Sandy, she showed me her artwork. So I was talking to Sue and Donna, and they were saying that you work in watercolor, right?
Yes.
So a lot of times people say when you paint in oils, you work from dark to light. I don't know if you've heard that before. I have. And I work from light to dark. So, and the reason is I work the way I see it. So if I am going to do a Carmel Beach scene, for instance, I want it to be really transparent. The paint really transparent, so the light comes from underneath. I don't want to have to add the light with the paint. So a lot of people, the reason you guys probably love your pencil, colored pencil, and the watercolor and so forth, is it kind of shimmers. And that's what I would like to do with oil painting, is and also because I see all the detail and I have to remind myself to edit and not paint every little thing. Leaving some areas that are transparent helps my work kind of breathe a little bit, where you're going to focus on, say, the lone cypress, that is going to be your focal point, and everything else should back off. So if you want to know why I'm doing some things, that's why I might be doing it. Also with the horses over there, that is very transparent. There's not a lot of paint until you get to the horses and the reflection. And then your eye should be, that was my subject matter. So then Donna mentioned drawing. I wanted to follow that up with one thing, and that is, you guys probably already know this, but Edgar Payne is amazing. And this is the Bible for composition for most of us. If you haven't already seen it, it's like, it'll answer everything. Every single thing. Watercolor, oil, doesn't matter. But you can see examples.
Outdoor painting, right? Composition, outdoor painting?
Yeah. Composition of outdoor painting. Look at this. He'll show you all the compositions. Draws them out. Keeps them simple, small. When I work outdoors, I keep them real small like this. And they're just studies. I mean, he can just describe where you want your eye to go, the values, your darks and lights. Keep it simple, edit. And, I mean, if you read this book, you guys are big master artists. I'm still trying to read this book. This is also his. It's drawing. Great drawings. Nothing complicated. But again, he's working on values. So that's what I try to do in painting. Most of these are in the middle values. A lot of times we can get too dark, I think. Unless you want to get really dark, I try to stay away from that. So I don't use black on my palette unless I'm doing horses or animals. Then I'll get into it with the pupils and that kind of thing. But I stay away from black. Can get really muddy. What else? So, palette. But what I do for color, to remind myself to stay warm. So none of these are blacks, they're Payne's grays or burnt umbers or raw umbers. You see all the earth tones? And then you do red, yellow, and blue. So you can simplify your palette down to red, yellow, and blue and Payne's gray. And that's really fun to do that, is use 4 colors. A lot of times I do evening scenes that way, where I'll do permanent red, yellow ochre, Payne's gray, that's your blue, and white. That's it. And brushes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. Brushes. Is that what you said?
No, I mean, they paint all of them with the same size of brush.
With the
Yeah.
same type of brush.
Same process. And when I'm doing my first, second, and third step, I'm using these rougher brushes. More of a chunking, sort of a bristly. These are bristle brushes. When I get into the end, I'm using sable brushes. Because I want to get some texture. You're creating, with a landscape, you're creating the illusion of a three-dimensional thing on a two-dimensional surface, right? So you're trying to get texture. Some artists blot it off, some artists wipe on and do all sorts of things to give yourself some texture. But these really, really bristle brushes will give you that because they're uneven.
Thank you.
So, but you need some medium if you're working in oil. I use this, which is a safflower gel, and it's great. It's non-toxic, doesn't spill. You just, can squeeze it on your palette. So I always tell people, you paint what you see, right? You can't make it up. I mean, I have a hard time doing abstract things. But abstract artists probably have a hard time doing representational. So you're painting who you are, how you see it. So basically, if I see the water, the ocean, and I see those colors, I see it transparent, I see where the foam is, and then I use my gel and my colors to make it.
The gel seems like
Yeah.
it'd be much better than a liquid.
What was that?
The gel seems like it would be much better than a liquid medium.
Yes, I like that better
But
because,
I end up not using medium because I don't like the liquid.
yeah,
It makes my head
it
too
smells.
thin.
Yeah, and I was just admitted to the Oil Painters of America show, the Western show, last month up in Utah. Thank you. And so there were 2 demos that day by Oil Painters of America artists. And the girl in the afternoon said she would use a liquid medium, and it would knock her out by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She had to lay down. So she doesn't use it anymore. So sky. I don't know if you guys ever have it. Do you paint landscapes? Everybody has this thing about skies, where they go, "What color is the sky?" And I have a client, and she takes some lessons too for me, and she just swears by King's blue. But really, the sky it starts at green at the horizon line, no matter what time of day and no matter what, and then it goes up to it has a little bit of lavender in the top, but the skies are pretty, around here anyway, pretty green. Everybody's okay? We're all on board? So what I did was I had painted this, like I said, already. This is my painting that I'm working from. So instead of bringing it already sold, so I'm just using the photo. And hopefully you can see it. And what I did yesterday was, so I drew it out bigger. And
She found it. No.
so I drew it out bigger, and then what I did was I left my pencil lines, and yesterday I just came in with some outline just to save some time today so you could see, I didn't have to bore you with pieces. So basically, this is looking from the Frank Lloyd Wright house over across north to Pebble, with Ocean Avenue coming down. And you've got cypress trees there, and this is low tide with the rocks showing. I kind of like that, because then your light is right there. I'm going to start with my bristle brushes.
I own it already.
Another really nice brush that's kind of, if you guys like detail and you want to just do it all with one brush, this is pretty cool. Because you can draw with it, or you can, do whatever you want with it. It's really a nice brush. And this is called a dagger, ivory dagger. Kind of fun. This is a filbert, so this is good for trees, for me. Gives me an uneven but not such a hard edge. This is good for scrubbing on the first step. And an ivory, this gives you a nice clean line, like if you're doing trees and you need to just kind of get some branches and some trunks. So rather than using this, I try not to do that. I try to keep my arm out. The other thing is, if I get lost, like with grass and landscapes, you can, like I said, I don't see abstract shapes that well. Just flip it, like Donna was saying. Just turn it upside down, and you'll save yourself a whole lot of time. Can you guys see my palette?
You bet.
Okay. So I'm reaching into the gel, and I'm going to have my light coming from that side. So this is going to be a lighter version of the sky. I kind of like the way, when you let paint dry, I kind of like the way it does its own wonderful thing, Sometimes there are things that it does that you had no idea it was going to do, even with oil. I work mostly on panels when they're small, and I always use my own gesso. So even if I order a panel from, say, Braemar panels, I'll still gesso them. I don't want to add a lot of paint here. I want to keep it transparent. So the hard work for me is in the initial drawing stages. You should have worked out everything that bothers you before you get here with your drawing, like Donna said.
Now, if you want to paint clouds, do you leave them out? Do you leave it white? Or do you paint it all blue and then put white on top?
For clouds.
What'd you say?
For putting clouds into the picture, would you do the sky first and put the clouds over?
Oh, okay, thank you. Good question. So I'm not using clouds because this is so busy in the first place.
Yeah,
but yes.
Right there.
Yes, I would. Absolutely great question. Paint it as if it's going to end up that way. So if you see the clouds are going to be in there, you don't paint over that. In fact, a lot of times I leave that almost white.
Okay, yeah. Because you have the gesso.
Yeah, that's right. That reminds me, I did a huge commission. I paint a lot of golf for people because I showed in Pebble Beach's gallery for 14 years. And I left this was like a commercial property, you all know, but I left half of the sky just blank because there's so much going on, with trees and golf and people and stuff. So yeah, clouds are, I just leave it. And you want those light and airy anyway. I don't, you know, some artists do add a lot of paint. I'm just not one to do that until I get to the very end, typically. But yeah.
Talking about cloud paintings, you've got this one over here with the clouds in it.
Right. Those have some paint on them.
Was that the last thing you did?
Is it what?
Was that the last thing you did on that?
No. Everything is blocked in the way it's going to be unless I want to change it. So no, that had clouds from the get-go. Normally you see that big fog bank come across that back hill, and I typically can move that fog bank over. Yeah. So I took the liberty of mixing the paint in advance so that some of it can speed up for you guys. So I'm going to take this sky color and mix it with my background color, because that back hill, I don't want it to be very strong. Checking my values.
Do your house after the meeting.
But again,
I like the green.
yeah, thanks. Yeah. Okay. Well, again, I like to keep it real light, and then it often can dry darker, especially on these panels. For some reason, even though it's linen, not sure. I don't like it to dry darker. And I don't like many colors.
You want it to stay like you wanted it to be.
Yeah, right. Right.
Well, watercolor does that. Watercolor dries darker. And I get the impression that your stylist, you work like a watercolorist, only using oil paint.
That's right.
A thin
That's just
layer of oil.
That's my style. That's why I was explaining that I go light to dark.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I get to where I am right there.
Right.
And then I'll look at it, and if something needs to be changed, you can really easily either rub it off, or, you know, it's not a huge commitment. You can move it. So.
And not a lot of paint to move.
Yeah, not a lot of paint. So.
Yeah.
I can usually just rub it off in places like right here. I want to take some off right there where the light is hitting those trees. And especially with golf, you really can't add a lot of paint with golf courses and that kind of thing, because it's like a landscape. It's grass. You need to keep grass pretty transparent. But I always use my complements. So with my bright phthalo yellow green, I'll hit it with some alizarin crimson or permanent red, and that gives you a really nice green. or burnt sienna if it's too strong. So. The other thing I do when I'm at home is I use a mirror. I don't know if you guys also do that, but I'm walking back every 3 minutes and looking at it in the mirror. So basically I catch things that way. So I basically want my eye to go right in there where I got the light in the beach. So I'm going to keep that really light and then emphasize the foreground will be darker. So.
So would you mix with your white sand?
Well, as you guys know, the sand isn't white, right?
Right.
It's kind of a yellow and purple and
Okay.
taupe and all kinds of things. So I kind of play with the white a little bit. I do need it to be really light at some point, but I don't really start too dark. But it's not white.
Right.
Yeah. But purple is kind of the magic secret sauce and everything. I use a lot of purple. It knocks back your yellows, especially when you're doing cliffs and sand. Also in the beach itself, the shadows can't be too strong, I find, or else it gets too busy. So I kind of mix a really light purple at first. That's darker, but it's kind of a blue purple. And also I have to remind myself that with every stroke you make, every single mark you make makes a difference. You know, so I try to think about every single thing I'm doing.
I have a lot of trouble getting dirt color.
The way?
I have a lot of trouble making dirt color.
You know, I do too. And the best solution for me is ultramarine blue and a little bit of burnt umber, and then see where you are with that. And you may have to warm it up with some yellow ochre or burnt sienna. But it's really tricky, dirt.
Yes.
It's really, because it can get really muddy looking. But I find if I do the burnt umber and ultramarine blue,
Okay.
somewhere in there gets me to that dirt. It's not brown, it's not black.
Right.
It has some depth in it.
Uh-huh.
I may have to go back in. I didn't bring it. I have a path. I have to may go back in like where the rocks are with the lone cypress. and give it some raw sienna. You may not be able to do it all in one pass. And that's the thing I have to remind myself. Don't try to do too much.
Right.
Put it away, you know, I'm going to block all this in. I'm going to put it 20 feet away and I'm going to let it dry. And then you're going to walk by it and go, oh, that's not so bad. I'm glad I didn't change that. You know what I mean? So, for me, it's better to underdo it than overdo it. But as my shadows get closer on the beach, this is morning, so that the light's coming from that way, and they're long shadows. And as I get closer, the shadows will be a little more pronounced under the people, etc. And especially under this rock right here. But as you see, this color, actually another good color for dirt, depends on where you're looking at it, is raw sienna and raw umber. Try that with a little bit of blue.
Okay.
And it's tricky because it's the yellow and blue is going to get green. So it's tricky. You might have to play with it, but stay with your neutrals. Like right now, I'm adding a little bit of raw sienna to this purple, and it's great because it's reflecting that rock right there, right? Mm-hmm. That big rock is going to be reflecting that. But you don't want it to, I don't want it to look wet there, so it'll be sort of a balancing act of how much I want to do. It's not going to be as dark as I'm going to end up. And remember on shadows, it's really cool to paint shadows and tree shadows, I think. The edges of the shadows, if you notice, have the color in a painting. You can't do a shadow just solid. That doesn't work, so, or at least for realism it doesn't work. Now, this is already setting up, which is great, so I can pull it off and it creates a nice mark for me. So I like that. I like that it's drawing, it's absorbing. So with beach scenes, I find, do you guys know the paint company Vasari? Have you heard of that?
No.
They have a color called shale, and it is the coolest color. Because with beach scenes, you need to knock it back. You need to knock your colors back so they look natural. At least for representational, and shale will do it for you. So that's what I'm using right here in my purple.
Vasari with a V? V-I?
S-H-A-L-E.
No, the paint company?
Vasari, V-A-S-A-R-I.
Do you sell reproductions of your work, or do you
Do I what? Yes.
sell reproductions?
Yes. So when you go on my website, there's an image, you click on it, and you can see all the drop-down menu of, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what keeps me going.
And they pay you directly through your website, or do you have it set up for a credit card or something like that?
Yeah, it's all linked to PayPal.
Oh, okay.
And, or you can go on Etsy. Etsy, I have a store there, or I show in art galleries. And then a lot of my commission work is word of mouth, where if your work is on display in a commercial area, like I've got 2 paintings in the lodge, so in Pebble Beach. So when Los Angeles Country Club just had the US Open last year, so I did, they found my work in the lodge, and I did like 8 paintings for them of their golf course and different views and that kind of thing. So yeah, the commercial space is really helpful. A lot of times they go into private homes, so. Okay, well.
Yeah, great.
That's a good start. I think I might just come in with a little bit more. Somebody said you're blue. Your sky isn't very blue. I think you're right. I think I'm going to do a little more color up there, just to kind of. I don't put too many layers in skies, because it's such an airy. Skies are weightless, so I think I am going to give it a little more.
Boy, that's a punch.
Yeah, just on this side, because if the sun's, the early morning, how the light is kind of on the yellow side, and then of course in the afternoon it's more on the lavender side or the peachier side. And then usually what I do, if I don't know if I brought it, but I would blend. Here's one. Blend it up. And I'm not worried about it smooth, because in the sky in the end, I'm going to glaze the whole thing. So it has some texture, but it's not like it is now.
I mean, glaze the sky or the whole painting?
Does it what?
Glaze the sky or the whole painting?
The sky. Just the sky, yeah.
Good.
I'll take a really soft brush with my sapphire oil and a really thin mix of paint, and I'll smooth it out. If it doesn't have clouds, like this. There's just such a small painting for clouds and a little tiny area that... Yeah, I can see it, and that's where I kind of want to let it rest, except for the trees on the right. The cypress trees, I'll finish those right now, but the rest, this is where I leave it. It looks very much like a watercolor.
Yes, yes it does.
You can see where I'm going with it. With that and with that, it's going to be vibrant in the end.
Dramatically more appealing than the photograph.
At the very, very end, I'll take really pure color and emphasize the light areas, like where the light's hitting this right here. That'll have some cadmium, lemon yellow in these light spots. To counter that will be the raw sienna. So it's a little duller, but it's still on the warm side. So like the sun's hitting it, but just as it comes up, but it's not everywhere. It's just going to be in some little key spots right there. But it's great. The paint is already setting up on this. It's super great.
That means it's nice and thin.
Yeah. Yeah, the paint's thin. Is that what you asked?
Thin, yes. Mhm.
Paint's thin, yeah. It's thin, and you can see how that is really transparent dark, but when I go over it, that's all I need.
Yep.
For those little cypress things. You don't have to paint every little, in representational art even, you don't have to paint every little thing.
Right.
It's just more for me, it's getting the shape and the composition. Once I have a composition, if this is working, which for me it is because there's something large in the foreground, the lights in the middle ground, and then it brings my eye over to the golf part. Back here. And I won't do much back there because of course it's way far away, but people know what that is. So. And then you don't want to, like right now, my brush is pulling up too much. It's starting to set up, so you really are at a point where you don't want to overwork it. You don't want to go in and do stuff because it'll ruin what you've just done. So, but I am adding a little bit of red in this, what's going to be in that cypress, just to make sure it warms that up. And what I'll do for the abstract shape like that, like I said, I'll turn it upside down, and I'll get a big brush that's an angle brush, and I'll just go. So it just doesn't. You go past it, and go into the painting, and but yeah, I think that's about where I would end at. I'd do a little more blue in the back hill, and then let it dry.
We are amazed. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.